if you're going to deliver an experience people don't want to come back to, right? Like it's always easier to retain people than to acquire them. So there is a new tension of having an authentic brand, which doesn't necessarily mean being an authentic individual.
It's B2B, but it's like B to the employees. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today we got Saraw Shewey. You're calling all the way from Taiwan, right? Or are you in Korea?
I thought we were telling you when we were calling you from Mars, but yeah. Taiwan's
okay.
Like, to many people, it's as far as Mars. So, but yes.
Well, what I meant to say was it's the Taiwan on Mars. So you are on Mars, but it's the Taiwan. Okay, so you're calling all the way from there. You're in a completely different time zone. But I thought maybe I'll start with a quick little intro of you, and then we'll kind of dive into everything. So Saraw, I'm going to completely butcher this, but Happily basically produces live events, experiences, but focus on being carbon neutral, right? That's basically what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we do we're experiential and media production company. We do produce carbon zero experiences. So we actually have a happily forest, and like our trees are in the shape of a happy face, like in Tanzania. And we, that was just like a surprise. Like our forestry team's amazing at Forest Nation, and they just are so happy they did it. And anyway, so yeah, but we actually calculate all of the carbon emissions that we have on our virtual and our in-person shows. We try to reduce it as much as possible, and just make sure that they're neutral. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And by the way, it's not just some kind of carbon neutral event company. You've also worked with, it's actually legit companies that you're working with. I'm just going to list out some of these. I'm going to list out some of the events that you guys, companies that trust you guys. The hashtag MeToo movement. You guys are a trusted partner. DoorDash, DNC. You also were a co-founder of the TED Active, which is kind of like TED Talks, kind of. Back in 2012.
I was one of the first 10 people at TED after they took their talks online. So kind of like the OG TED crew.
The OG TED crew. Love that. But yeah, carbon neutral, but large events. Okay, that is my intro for you, but maybe you can give us a short, couple of sentences or a paragraph of, what you do and your experience in marketing and events.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much. So, what Happily does is essentially we partner with brands and nonprofit organizations that we consider world positive, orgs that have really meaningful things to say with communities that are active and want to become more active. And we do that through engaging people with events, which are kind of sometimes we produce them end to end, and it feels like launching little mini businesses inside of companies end to end, because we'll do things we'll start thought leadership conferences, come up with new brand names, new creative, for almost every single sort of new show, hire out large teams of people to execute on those, develop marketing messages, media messages, videos, reels, and then of course, just all of the travel and the dinner parties and, all of the sort of details of just people being, on site. Happily essentially helps do all of that. We've got 5 studios: strategy, creative, web, broadcast, and experiential. And we just orchestrate, all of these creative talents and kind of nerdy, technical, almost psychotically, adrenaline fueled, production people, pull them all together to just make sure that communities can form and have, really joyous and memorable experiences.
So cool. Well, we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to learn about who your clients are, how you guys run events, what are the secrets, marketing channels, all that. But first, I wanted to kind of just start off with the traditional dab of hot sauce. So I understand that you won't be taking hot sauce with us today, or will you be joining us? on our
I don't
dab?
think you want me to be honest. Like so I'm pregnant, which is exciting.
No.
And there's like, I just don't, I think that if I'm not supposed to eat like lots of things,
Wow.
and spicy is one of them. So
Okay,
I don't
well,
know what to do about that.
you are the first pregnant person slash woman on the show. Okay,
That'd
I
be
guess
amazing if you had a pregnant man. That's like, I
that
mean,
would be, well, anything happens on Mars. But I think what I'll do is I'll dab by myself. But next time when you're here in town,
aw,
or
thank you.
if I'm down in Taiwan, we will get some spice. I don't know if there's even spicy food in Taiwan.
I can like, I don't know, I can like drink water or something like that. I don't know.
It's okay. That's okay. I'll do
Okay.
the dab. So I'll have to be very careful because every single time you cannot answer a question, we want to get into the roots of what works in marketing. So every single time you cannot answer a question, you were supposed to take another dab of hot sauce. But because I will have to take it, I'll have to be a lot more careful with the questions that I
How
ask.
hot is this hot sauce that you've got?
So it's I'm gonna plug this Farmer Raz from Seattle.
Rude boy. Boy.
Rude boy,
With an
rude
I.
boy, and it's made from Carolina Reaper, which is the third, I believe it's the third
Oh
spiciest
yeah.
pepper in the world, and also Scotch bonnet, which is a Jamaican Scotch bonnet, which is up there, but not really. I think the Scoville
Oh, really?
unit for this is about 350,000 or 400,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, rude boy.
Is this the hottest hot sauce you've ever had?
No, I've also tried the bomb from the Hot Ones. That used to be the hottest sauce that they had on the show, and now they made one that's two times more spicy, and it absolutely kills you.
Oh
And
my
that's not
gosh.
fun. But cheers.
So,
This is
okay, well, cheers to you. Thank you so much for letting me.
Yeah.
I love spicy too, so I'm actually sad that I have to sit it out.
Yeah. Well, don't be. Okay, this is spicy.
Oh no.
Yeah, it is spicy.
In the next like 2 minutes, we just like watch like you just start crying.
Yeah, it is. Well, luckily now it's my turn to kind of ask you questions. So
Sorry.
let's kind of dive into it. So what I want to know is, first of all, I know I've listed out about 3 of your clients. Who are your clients? Who are the people that work with Happily, and why would a company want to work with Happily?
I mean, the different types of clients that we have are like large, I would say like enterprise, companies, people who have like over 1,000. Sorry. That's like, I don't know what this is. Oh, it's my sneeze.
Is that a cat?
People have.
It's a cat screaming.
I'm a Naruto fan, and like it's like the end song of like, there's like different music. It's like the closing song of like one block of episodes. It's the one where like Sakura and Hinata, I think, are like, anyways, so I digress. Our clients, I would much rather talk about like obscure Naruto music than our customers. That's not true. I love our customers. So yeah. So we work with like companies of like tons of employees, like 1,000+ employees. It's like one kind of persona that we have, and we're helping them like build their all hands, do their retreats, especially now with like remote work. Like it's such a big thing to just like have like good internal culture, and also like a lot of organizations, like they go through different phases. Like with DoorDash, like we help them through their IPO, right? And there's like mergers and acquisitions that happen. So culture building and reporting and updates and that kind of stuff. That's one type of customer that we have, working with like people operations. And then another type of customer that we have is like brand marketers. These can be for organizations like small or large. Like it's funny, but because like some of our smallest, or when I say small, is like the team is really small. Is like a lot of VCs work with us, and it's like 1-2 people that are like in charge of like marketing or platform for VC firms. And but they do like they're hosting like a lot of these different kinds of summits and like learning and development, like webinars and stuff like that for their portfolio companies and their networks. But like, we also work with like large brands that have a new product to launch, and we'll do sort of big experiential campaigns for them. And then, lastly, we do help with nonprofit organizations and nonprofit associations as well, people who are like member-based and just like need to bring their community together for, again, kind of like, I think our sweet spot jam is like the making like edutainment, like learning and development kind of stuff, like fun, like kind of coupled with culture. That's pretty much what we do.
Yeah. You're basically turning everything that you learned with the TED Active campaigns or the TED Talk kind of style and bringing them in-house to organizations that want to create their own TED experience, TED-like experiences.
It's definitely like our sweet spot or like our unique expertise. Like, cause my company, like of those like 5 studios I mentioned earlier, like 3 of our studios are run by like past colleagues of mine. So like our head of broadcast, for instance, is Jason Wishnow, who was like the director of the TED Talk, was like totally came up with like the whole format from it, took it from like, 0 to 1 billion views in his tenure. So we just like have, we just were there at that inflection point when TED decided to not just be an events company, but to be a media company that like leveraged the power of events, to basically like pull together like the most interesting content and make it actionable.
Yeah. By the way, talking about TED Talks, we'll talk about that and then we'll come back to Happily. You were one of the first 10 people that joined the TED Active campaigns. What was that like growing from the early beginnings? I think you started, what was it, early 2000s was when you started?
Yeah, mid 2000s. So TED's actually like been around for like, I don't know, maybe it's like 40 years almost now. Like, and then it sold to this guy, Chris Anderson, who had that vision of making it a media company. And so I came in after Chris took it over. And then TED Active was like this simulcast event, actually. It was so TED, started to put its talks online. I think when I was there was like still like less than 1 million views, people would like, I had to like go and like hustle for sponsorships and stuff. Like people would be like, so when do we get to meet TED? And I was like, oh, it's like not a guy. It's like stands for technology and entertainment and design.
Well, he's not a
we all laugh about that now, but like we would laugh about it internally, but it took years. It actually took years to build the brand. So TED Active was like just when TED was starting to like get like a little bit known wider, the community was coming. There were people, once it was going online, there were people from all over the world that was like, how can I come to TED? And like, TED's like, we don't know who you are. And like, what do we do? But they were like super fans, man. They were like, we want to do our own TED. We want to translate your talks for free. And so TED Active was kind of like mothership for like, this is the place where we actually like rented out a satellite so that we could like show the TED Talks. And we had like a whole experiential program for the course of a week in Palm Springs. And then we basically kind of taught TEDx organizers how to do TEDx, and then they would best practice with each other and share their learnings. And it was literally like at TED, we were called like the kids table because we were like the noisy, totally like irreverent, we were watching like talks like in the pool. Like I once 1 year was leap year and I was like, let's get a bunch of trampolines. And like, I got like 50 trampolines and then like, we all like leapt around and like watched talks like while jumping and did all sorts. So we did all sorts of stuff. It was like this really fun, like incubator for new ways of distributing ideas.
Wow. And at that time you were super young, right? When you started there, you were like the youngest amongst.
I don't know if I was the youngest. TED actually skews like pretty young. But yeah, I mean, I was like 25, 26 when I was there. So, man, I just aged myself. So hopefully, now you're all marketers. Y'all know how to do math.
Doing math. Early 2000s. Okay. And that was like, YouTube wasn't even that big at that time. So TED didn't even make it on YouTube yet.
And Google wasn't. I mean, like Google, like those dudes like really launched Google at TED, So it was, the internet was all like really young.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. So, okay, when you think about events, what makes a good event? So for you, you like it to be fun. Is that just, it seems like everything is becoming more and more fun online. Even ads, like you want to incorporate comedy or something interesting. Even when you want to speak, you want to be subtle and you want it to be fun. That's why TikTok is just going off and growing so fast. Everything on TikTok is fun. Is that kind of where you see everything going? And maybe you can talk a little bit about
Yeah,
events, but just
I
overall,
hope
yeah.
so. Like, let's trend to fun. Like, that sounds good, right? Like, better than despair. I mean, look, there's a lot of things that are not fun in this world, and I think that it's always safer for a brand to be the optimistic shining light, right? Like, I think most brands aren't gonna be like, oh, let us be the doomsayers, right? Like, well, we see even like having been and in being active in the climate space and the sustainability space, like I was doing sustainable events before I was at TED, and I was like, yo, we have a branding problem. Like, they're all like, kind of, at that time it was like a bunch of like old hippies that were like, the world is going to burn. And it's like, that it is true, but that's not, what people want to hear. They want to know the facts, right? But they want to know, what can you do about it, right? And how can you, like, people want to like enjoy their day, right? I think also like the whole freelancer movement, because we were kind of early with that, because Happily is like a marketplace of a huge marketplace of freelancers. And so I would tell everyone, I was like, yeah, people don't really want to work at your office like full time anymore. Like, they want to work on things that like are interesting to them. So I think fun, are we trending to fun? Like, probably, if we're talking about brand stuff, and I think just in general people's lives, I think it's just more about people like trying to find things that are like interesting to them, and just generally you're like attracted to things that make you smile, right?
That's so true. That's so cool that you guys were on like the cutting edge of fun events and remote work. And now 10 years, 15 years later from when you guys first, well, actually you guys started in what year did Happily started?
2012. So 10 years. Yeah. 10 years ago.
10 years. And now everything is kind of like commonplace. Everyone is trying to do fun events. Like even like conferences now are more and more fun, but you guys have been doing it for the last 10 years.
I mean, if you've been to a bad conference, it's like if you go to a bad conference, you just don't want to go again. It's too hard, and events are expensive, honestly. So like, and they're wasteful, like generally. So it's like, why put all this like energy, like sunken energy, if you're going to deliver an experience that people don't want to come back to, right? Like, it's always easier to retain people than to acquire them. So having that like element of fun. And a lot of times people are asking, especially conferences, like dedicate a day, a week, or multiple days. And it's like, that better be fun, because as soon as like, at least for me, like 6:00 or whatever my work day is done, I'm having fun. Right. So you can't like expect people to sort of like come and spend like 24 plus hours of just like boring learning. Even like school. Is school getting more fun? I don't know.
I don't know. They should get into that. I think that would be a good business idea if you can turn school fun again.
I mean, I think that like TED and Masterclass and like a lot of these, media companies, this edu-tainment thing has like been on the rise because, people found out like, oh, like kids actually do want to learn things as long as it's packaged the right way. Dude, I saw the Snoop Dogg this is a side thing. Snoop Dogg has like like he sings to kids, and he's got like he like sings, like he has this kid raps, like I was thinking all I had was like baby Mozart. I'm like very excited to like introduce my kid to Snoop Dogg at a very young age.
You might get your kids to get into some recreational flowers.
Making gardeners, like, let's go
gardening. You might do some gardening.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of acquisition, you talked a little bit about retaining is easier than acquiring.
Yeah.
Don't really know your world too much, but for people that are listening, they might be interested. Like, what are the marketing channels for like what you're offering? Because your audience, they're big, right? They're big companies, or bigger nonprofits. The events are probably bigger as well. Like, how do you acquire these clients of yours? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, historically, it's like word of mouth. I think word of mouth is actually really big for us. And actually, like, like just people who come to our events, they're like, whoa, who did this? Like, this was awesome. Like, I also need to do that. So that's a lot of our customers. But and then we'll sponsor events too, so we'll go to a boring, sometimes like we'll just like go to a boring event and we'll be like, okay, we're going to do the party. Right. And then we do the fun thing. And then everyone's like, wow, it's like amazing. So that's a thing. But honestly, like we also just do Google Ads, LinkedIn, social media, like content. We use like different channels for different things. So LinkedIn is really great for us because we're actually like marketing on two sides of a platform. We're always like recruiting, talent to join us and specialists to join us. So we'll use LinkedIn for that, but we'll also use Instagram and looking at, using TikTok more for that as well. And then just we're B2B for the most part. So finding people like on LinkedIn, is really critical for us. And then we write lots of blogs, have lots of case studies and white papers. We'll throw, events and webinars of our own, so that we help people like understand, according to their specific industry or the sort of specific stage that they're in and like developing their community, how they can leverage events to grow their audience. So yeah.
Yeah. And so for your social channels, like LinkedIn is good for talent, but do you also get companies like B2B guys come up to you and be like, hey, I just saw your event. It looks amazing. Can you do ours as well?
I invested in building my LinkedIn profile like kind of earlier, I think, than a lot of other people. Like I've got like 10,000+, 13,000, something like that. Like
yeah, 13,000 followers. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I just like went in, like, I just was like every day would like put in like a different role, different industry, just look for people that I thought was interesting and reach out and say, what's up, So I did that for years. That's how I like got, this group of people. I literally know like all of those people. Like they're not, I don't know. So, or like a lot of them. So, wow. So yeah, I think that's actually been a really good thing, is just like investing like in doubling down in like one channel. So like you have like a good sized megaphone in one space. And LinkedIn does work, on both sides of the platform. So like, our clients and, and specialists will both like want to talk about things with me on that platform.
And I think, and I don't know if you agree with this, there's this trend in B2B where businesses it's B2B, but it's like B to the employees, right? It's like your employees and your owners need to have a voice and they want to have a face to the company. So just regular B2B sales is very, very difficult. So a lot of businesses are now creating thought leaders, and their CEOs and founders are being more and more engaged on LinkedIn. And by understanding the leaders, by understanding the owners and what their philosophies are and what their values are, that is what helps to close a potential sale. I don't know. Do you feel that movement in your space, dealing with a lot of the organizations that
especially because we're all about sort of generating culture. It's always been a big thing. And I guess like, when I started my company, like I started as an entrepreneur when I was like 25, right? Yeah. And when I started, I wrote a blog post about how I wanted all of my events to be like as eco-friendly as possible. And then like literally like NPR and Oprah and like Vogue like saw this blog post, and I'm like working out of a basement, of a hotel, like in an AV company, like literally no one. And so I realized very early on how important like being just like, value aligned and putting your values in front of like your product, like really helps like attract the right people, too. So, Even with Happily, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago before the pandemic, I took a good amount of time to just like really think. Sorry about that. It took a lot of time to just really think about what are Happy's values and to crystallize those. And since I went out and sort of said like, okay, like we're all about like reducing waste, reinvesting in local economies and representing diverse voices, like all these people came out of the woodwork. And so many of our clients will say, we ask them like, why did you choose us over? There's so many event companies. Like, why us,
Yeah.
And they'll say, end of the day, it was like, because your values first. So I think it is really important. This notion of like, oh, I'm just because you talk or like you put your values like up, you're going to become a thought leader. I mean, I'm very jaded about that because I came from TED and have seen many, many, like thousands of CEOs try this and utterly fail. You do have to do like the real sort of like, there is a lot of hard work and in developing original thoughts of research, testing, improving, copywriting, and refining that. So it's not an overnight thing. And people can, especially now that like people know that that's a playbook, to like become a thought leader. The bullshit meter is like really high. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. So before we dive into the marketing channels a little bit deeper, because I have some more questions, how much of this is actually just being you, being 100% authentic? Like you said at one of the earlier TED conferences or meetups, you felt like jumping on a trampoline, so you just grabbed a bunch of trampolines. Whereas a lot of people would be like, I feel like jumping on a trampoline, but it's so businessy and I don't want to look that way in front of these business people. So I'm just not going to jump on a trampoline. But you just don't care and you just were you. And how much of that is just like, how important is authenticity in B2B nowadays?
Bro, I don't know. It's the B2B is so huge, right? So like while that might work for us when we're trying to, I think being authentic is easier when you have a younger brand. Let me say that. And then as the organization gets bigger, you get into hundreds, into thousands, of people, there is a new tension of having an authentic brand, which doesn't necessarily mean being an authentic individual, if that makes sense. So, I don't know how to describe that. That's why I think actually like values are more important than brand messages or, and the stories that people share are the vehicle, by which you can share those values is much more important. I don't know. So, because I even feel this, like the bigger my organization gets, like,
By the way, how big are you guys now? Like how many clients you guys have or revenues?
Oh, I don't know. We've got like hundreds of them. We've had over 20 million people come to our events. We've got over 60,000 people in our database of freelancers that we call on, regularly to connect them with gigs. So that's kind of like the size that we're at. Pretty big. I mean, the U.S. Census Bureau has like 50,000 event planners or whatever that they count. So pretty large. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of stats, you guys have raised, I believe you guys have raised like 500,000.
I raised a little bit in the early days. So when I had to raise because people thought I was literally insane when I was like, oh, I'm going to put event planners like up on a website and you can hire us. And they're like, nobody's going to hire people like off the internet, Sarah, like, especially for events, like it's like all about trust and who you know. And so I had to raise, and I also like didn't have any experience with building like a technology platform. And I mean, even marketplaces were so new. I had to raise a little bit, but then it's a pretty cash flow positive business, right? Like people pay us up front to deliver like goods and services. So yeah, I love the freedom of not having to get on the hamster wheel of like valuations.
Yeah. And in terms of like revenues, where are you guys at now? And if you don't want to answer,
multi-million-dollar company. I don't like to tell. So that's like all I'll say. Like, is this a hot sauce question?
It is a hot sauce question. Oh, okay. I'll take a hot sauce. But whatever.
I only don't want to mention it just because like I have like a lot of family, and I feel like sometimes I don't buy them like nice enough gifts, and if they like knew how much revenue I made, they'd be like, "Wah."
All right, I'll take a hot sauce for that question. It is so.
I mean, I kind of answered it. I hope you took like a half spoonful, like a teaspoon.
Yeah. Okay. How about this? Okay? Is it above 5 million?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it above 10 million?
I mean, at this point, I'm just telling you how much money we've made.
Okay. I took my hot sauce anyways. So okay, let's get back to the marketing channel. So word of mouth is huge. They all just doing events, sponsoring events, Google ads, Instagram, TikTok for branding, other social media channels like LinkedIn for branding.
Yeah.
At this point, what do you think is your number one marketing channel? The number one driver for new business?
Number one is people come to our shows because, our events have like hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, right? So it's, and it's like when you experience a phenomenal registration experience, or you're having a problem and somebody like helps you out and like, what's your name? Who are you? We're from Happily. Like, that's a done deal. Like, our conversions are super high, if you've come to an event, from us. It's a lot harder to explain, why we're better, because there's so much about the feeling of being at a show and how well you're taken care of that if you haven't experienced it yourself, it's kind of, it's hard to convert.
And you guys have the full service, right? You guys have the sign in. Sorry, I can't even speak right now.
Oh my God. I noticed that. I didn't want to say anything.
Like slurring. Like the sign in experience, the registration experience, to the app that you use when you are at the event, to networking. Like, you have the whole experience, or do you partner up with other organizations to do a certain part?
Yeah, strategy, creative, web, broadcast, and experiential. So it really touches like kind of end to end. I mean, but that's not to say that we're not partnering with like a ton of people, because even the business model is that we're partnering with with freelancers, right? So that's one of the things that I think is really like, to me, like revolutionary about, like culturally revolutionary about the way that we go about things, is that everyone that is working, for the event is their own business. They treat it seriously and with like the love and care that they treat their own brands. But they're all like sort of like working like in concert with like kind of the master sort of plan that Happily provides.
And is your role now, do you still get into the whole project managing of this partner and then this partner and this partner, kind of like the coordinator? Or are you more, do you have people doing all of that, orchestrating everything, and you're more client facing now? What is your role nowadays? I am like
a person who doesn't lose. And like, I hate losing. Like, I hate it. Like, I am the most competitive board gamer. You know what I mean? Like, I compete with everything. Like, if you're on a road trip with me, like we're like competing about something. There's prizes all the time, So that kind of personality, that I have, like essentially in order to like win every time, like you have to be able and confident enough to do anything, whatever job is needod. So I'm basically wherever my team needs me. But overall, where people need me the most is just generally the strategy. So I do head up like the strategy department, like which talent to invite, how long should this program be? Who should we be inviting? Why, how do we position that like within the market? That's mainly the role that I fill with internally with Happily, but then also, for our customers.
How long did it take you? Because you ran Happily for 10 years. I assume the first few years you were more operational before the team got to a certain scale. How long do you think it took you to shift away from more operational to more strategic because of your
I
personality?
mean, yeah, I think I'm still operational, to be quite honest, because like everything about events is about operations, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like it's
Oh,
all about
totally.
planning and scheduling. And as we do more and more events simultaneously, and I'm trying to sort of maintain quality at scale. The only way to really do that is for me to like build process and operationalize things. So, yeah, I mean, I think like most CEOs do a lot more than people give them credit for, or maybe that they just don't want people to know like how hard they work.
Yeah.
But I think CEOs work really hard. I'm always telling my friends, like even my husband, he started a company, and I was like, don't be the CEO. I was like, I will support you in founding a company, but like you got to be like the product person, because like the CEO is the
Everything.
janitor, dude.
Everything. Whatever. They're like, yeah, they are the janitor for sure.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you need
Yeah.
money? All right, like let me get my wallet out, right? Like, oh, like, you don't know how to use like this, you don't know how to like use this Excel sheet. Let me show you. Like I like whatever, like that's why I'm like literally whatever
Everything.
needs to get done. Like if I call it critical path, every week I lay out for the team, like here's the 3-4 things that are on critical path for this week, and you do not want to be on the critical path list, because what that list means is that like Sarah's going to like show up, and we're going to have a meeting, and she's going to like do your job in front of you for like a little bit and then fix it, and then you get to do it after that. So that's how it has to, that's how I think a lot of businesses are run. Certainly how mine is.
Yeah. Well, we have to do a hot sauce competition one day because
yes, I know.
if you're that competitive, I would love to see
I would make
far
it
can
like
we
done
go.
level though, where it's like until one of us knocks out or like snot, comes out of our nose. Like that's how serious I am.
Well, it's getting to that point. I feel
it's only 2, so I'm not sure if you're like a good competitor.
No, I will do it. I will do it. I'm pretty competitive in that sense, and I've had some spicy sauces. Like I mentioned, I tried the bomb, which is like a 400,000 or 500,000 Scoville unit hot sauce. I'm down. I'm down to play ball. So
okay, all right.
Let's
well,
do it. Let's
in
do it.
6 months or something after this kid is out of me, and I don't have to be responsible for someone's heartbeat.
We'll do that. Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us what makes a good event. So what should we be looking for Happily? Like what are the next big announcements or milestones that are coming up? Maybe we can give you the floor to talk about whatever.
Yeah. Well, we are just like keep expanding into like new regions. So we just built out a lot of our London team, which we're really excited about. And we'll be building out like more in Europe. I think after the pandemic, what we saw was that, travel just got really tricky. So we're excited to be, in new markets. And that's the main, I think like the main focus, of our company right now is just grow. Canada. I love Canada. Actually, I think that Canada will come soon. Our head of experiential design is actually based in Vancouver. So, and the Canadians are just so nice,
Oh yeah, we're so nice. We take hot sauce shots for you when you're supposed to be taking. Yeah. Like, that's who we are as people.
I know. Thank you. That was really sweet.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll chat very soon. Good luck with the baby, and yeah, well, thank you so much for jumping on.